Ultimately, the Assad regime in Syria has collapsed, as per the news channels. How will this impact the region geopolitically? What is the real agenda and objectives of the power supporting rebel group? Why is the Assad led government in Syria losing control over territories? Few years ago, when ISIS tried to do it, the Putin intervened and saved the Assad government. But why are the rebels have the rebels been able to get success this time? And what's Turkey's stance in the whole Syria situation? It being a member of NATO is pressured by the West to act anti-Russia. It is infiltrated with Syrian refugees, and Assad has denied to take back his own people. Okay, what's happening vis-a-vis Turkey? What's happening, uh, and so on, right? So that's the question. Uh, okay, so I think for that we should take a look at the map. So where's the map? Let me open the map, because the map is our friend and that helps us understand a lot of things. So here's the map. Let me take the question off the screen for a while and let's zoom into where the region that we're talking about. So we're talking about Syria. Syria is this nation that's in the center of the screen right now. Now, what's happened? Uh, Last 24 hours, the Assad regime has finally fallen. Bashar al-Assad, we don't know about his whereabouts. Apparently, he took a plane from Damascus and was going somewhere, but apparently the plane disappeared off the radar. Did it crash, or was it its transponder switched off? We don't quite know, but his whereabouts are not known. Zalmai Khalilzad is alleging that he may be somewhere in the UAE. So he hasn't shown any evidence to substantiate his claim, but that's what he claimed on Twitter. Zalmai Khalilzad was the US special representative for Afghanistan, who negotiated with the Taliban and in Doha and all that, right? So we don't know where Assad is, but the rebels or the terrorists or Al Qaeda or ISIS or whoever they are a US proxy force. They have, or Turkish proxy force, whatever you want to call it. They have taken over Syria. They probably have taken control of Damascus. Uh, so that is what has happened. So understand what's happened in the. So this is obviously another successful regime change operation conducted by the United States. These armed forces, whatever you want to call them, rebranded ISIS, rebranded Al Qaeda, and so on. They are proxies of the US and proxies of Turkey. The Turks have had a presence in northern Syria for quite some time. It's a region that's rich in oil, so the Turks have been enjoying that oil, obviously. And the Russians have had a presence in Syria. Look, the civil war in Syria began in 2011, and you may remember the time that Al Qaeda was fighting the Syrian government, and ISIS suddenly emerged out of nowhere. It was obviously a creation of the US. Okay, and the Assad regime was under tremendous pressure, and then Putin from the north, from Russia, stepped in, and he saved the Syrian government, the Assad government, from being overthrown. The Russians have a naval base in Latakia, and they have an air base also in the western part of Syria. So that is a question mark now. What's going to happen to the Russian presence in Syria? But overall, the American proxies have taken over Syria, and as we speak right now, one hears that Israel is now making a move on Syrian territory. They are moving eastwards. Israeli tanks have apparently crossed the line of control from the Golan Heights into Syrian territory. So the Israelis may create most likely a larger so-called buffer zone right now by gobbling up large parts of Syrian territory. So that's what we're gonna see now. And the terrorist groups or militant groups that have taken over Syria, they have close links with Turkey and obviously the US as well. So this is another successful regime change operation by the US. So in the past 3 or 4 years, since 2020, what regime change operations have we seen in in the overall large Asia region? We have seen a regime change operation in Afghanistan, a handover of power to the Taliban by the Americans. And the Taliban are getting weekly stipend and funding from the US. So the Taliban are a pro-US regime, a US proxy regime. So the US has conducted a successful regime change operation in Afghanistan. Then in 2022, they conducted a successful regime change operation in Pakistan by ousting Imran Khan and bringing in a pro-US puppet government. Then uh, there is this new recent coup in Bangladesh, which has brought in a US puppet government. So India is surrounded by East and West Pakistan. There is an ongoing operation in Burma. It's a proxy war between American forces and Chinese proxies, and the Americans seem to be winning. And they are trying to carve out an artificial cookie land for Christ out of Indian territory and Burmese territory. So that is another operation that is ongoing. And now we have this regime change operation in Syria. So right now in the Middle East region, in the West Asia region, apart from Iran, you only have US proxies, nations that are firmly on the side of the US. In 2003, they wiped out the Saddam Hussein regime, and Iraq now is a US proxy with some amount of influence from Iran because of the Shia population. But Syria has fallen now. So, and why did this regime fall? The Bashar al Assad regime, why did it fall? So, let's go back to that question. Why did this regime fall? So, the Assad regime, first of all, Bashar al Assad never wanted to be president, okay? It's old history, it's nothing to do with what's happened right now. His brother, Basal al Assad, was supposed to be the next president after the father, Hafiz al Assad, would demit office or pass away. But Basal al Assad died in a car crash, and Bashar al Assad, who was an eye doctor in London, had to reluctantly come back to Syria, and eventually he became the president. Now, the Al Assad family belongs to the Alawite sect in Syria. Syria is a mishmash of various ethnic groups and religious groups, and the Alawite sect is less than 10% of the Syrian population, but they are the elite, and they have been ruling Syria for the past 50 plus years as part of the Baath party. It's a dictatorship, obviously. Only dictatorship works in West Asia. Nothing else works. That's the nature of the region. So now, after the civil war started, the US mediated, US induced civil war started in 2011. Uh, it's because of Russian intervention and Iranian intervention that the Assad regime survived. So they have had help from outside, support from outside, but did they have support from inside? They probably did not have support from within the Syrian population. There must have been lots of disaffected ethnic groups and whatnot. So eventually, this happened. What's happened now has happened. So Iran has lost a huge, uh, a very major piece on the geopolitical chessboard. They no longer have any influence now in Syria. Syria is gone, and it was through Syria that they were able to, uh, maintain the hold that they have in Lebanon or the Hezbollah and all that. So Syria is gone. So they no longer have physical access to Lebanon. If you look at the map once again, let's go back to the map. Where's the map? Let's go back to the map. So if you look at the geography, Iran is the nation in the center. West of Iran, you have Turkey in the northwest, and you have Iraq. Now, Turkey is not a friendly nation to Iran by any means, but in Iraq, the Iranians have lots of proxies. So they were able to access Syria via Iraq in a variety of ways, clandestine, covert ways, overt ways, whatever. And through Syria, they were able to have whatever contacts and access they had to Hezbollah in Lebanon. Now Syria is gone, and Lebanon, Hezbollah is very badly weakened. The West Bank is essentially destroyed. The Palestinian Hamas resistance is mostly crushed by Israel. So all the Iranian proxies are kind of now enfeebled or destroyed. The last piece of the puzzle is Yemen, the Ansar Allah faction, the Houthis, which are also an Iranian proxy, but now Iran mostly stands alone in the region. So it is a victory for the US. It's a victory for Israel. Israel will probably now grab large bunches of Syrian territory and call it a buffer zone. Okay, that's how geopolitics works. So the Americans are making things happen at a very rapid pace now. And what next is the question. Next, I would say, is Iran. Iran will now come firmly in the crosshairs of Israel and the United States. Now, Russia and China cannot afford to let Iran fall. That's the deal right now. So that is the situation. Turkey is very much involved in this. Turkey, some would say Turkey has backstabbed Putin. What's his name? Erdogan has backstabbed Putin or whatever. It's not the case. He's simply acting out of his own interest, which every nation does. So Turkey is involved in this. Their proxies are in control in Syria. The Assad regime is gone. We don't know about the whereabouts of Al Assad and his family, but that's where we are. So it's a complete transformation of the geopolitical balance of power in the West Asia region. It's very much advantage US, advantage Israel. Russia has withdrawn. Russia has been bogged down, you could say, and completely preoccupied with the situation in Ukraine. In the meanwhile, Israel smashed Hamas, smashed Hezbollah, and that's how they were able to make this happen. And it looks like there may have been some kind of deal that was offered to the Syrian army, because it looks like they gave up without a fight, just like the Afghan army gave up without a fight to the Taliban. The same sort of thing seems to have happened. So either a deal was given to Assad that will allow you to escape, and the same deal was given to the Syrian army. Apparently, lots of tanks from Syria, the Syrian army tanks, crossed over into Iraq. Apparently, so we don't quite sure what's happened. What are the mechanics and dynamics of what has happened? What was the deal that was offered or not? Eventually, maybe some clarity may come a few years down the line, but that's where we are. So the whole balance of power now has changed. It's very strongly advantage US and Israel in West Asia, and this affects the rest of the world in a variety of ways. So that's the situation, and we'll keep a watch on this. We'll keep an eye on this.